All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the inaugural AGOA Exporters Roundtable. Thank you very much for joining us and for keeping time. We will begin even as we wait for others to log on to the call. My name is Maxwell Okello. I'm the Chief Executive of the American Chamber of Commerce, Kenya, and it is a pleasure to be leading this session this afternoon. I want to take this early opportunity to recognize our speakers for today's forum. We have the Industrialization Secretary, Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, Hezekiah Okello. We also have Assistant Director, Internal Trade at the State Department for Trade, Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, Simon Chalgo. We have the CEO, Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, Dr. Wilfred Marube. We have the AmCham Board Vice President, Humphrey Lilech. We have with us today as well the Chair of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Flora Mutahi. We have the Head of Policy, Research and Advocacy at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Job Wanjohi. The Chairperson, United Aryan EPZ Limited, Pankaj Bedi. The CMO, Umoja Rubber Industries Limited, Jinal Shah. The Head of Human Resource and Administration, Jungle Nuts EPZ Limited, Joseph Murigi. Representatives from the USAID Office of Economic Growth and Integration, and the trade team led by Sarah Lam and Richard Mugo. We also have the USAID Trade Hub team represented here today, whom we've worked with closely to bring this AGOA Exporters Roundtable to life. Various private sector players represented here today. Asanteni and welcome to the inaugural AGOA Exporters Roundtable. Before we begin, a few housekeeping issues to cover. Our forum today is 2.25 hours long and will consist of 3 main segments. Eva, if you could go on to the program. Yeah, 3 main segments. The first segment will be an introduction segment, really, an introductory segment, where we will listen to, the board president of AmCham, Humphrey Lilech, and Flora Mutahi, the chair of KEPSA, who will give some opening remarks. I will kick off this segment with a bit of a background and a scene setter, just explaining why the AGOA Exporters Roundtable and its objectives. Thereafter, we will go on to the second segment of the afternoon, where we will have presentations from the State Department for Trade, as well as CAM, and we will have, subsequent to that, we will hear the experiences, challenges, and pointers from those who are really at the coal face of exporting into the US under AGOA. And we have 3 speakers for you that are going to be making their submissions then. Thereafter, we will get into a moderated half-hour discussion that will be led by Dr. Wilfred Marube, who's the CEO of KEPROBA. And basically, this will be a reflection on the presentations and the implications for the work of the roundtable from those who have spoken this afternoon, as well as he will field questions from yourselves as the audience. So we encourage you, as we move along, to please submit your questions in the Q&A or the chat tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Thereafter, I'll come in, do a summary of the various recommendations that will have come from the discussion this afternoon, and then I will invite Flora, the chair of KEPSA, to close for us. So as I mentioned, we anticipate that this will take us just about 2.25 hours to cover our program this afternoon. Again, I want to kindly request us all to please mute your audio and turn off your video during the course of this afternoon, the afternoon's program. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the AGOA Exporters Roundtable is really a collaborative platform that brings together government, trade and industry associations, regulators, and private sector enterprises to drive focused dialogue, advocacy, and solutions that will support the advancement of trade under AGOA. Now, this roundtable idea or concept is in response to challenges that and constraints, I must say, that were identified from various exporters that we managed to interact with, that they face and keep facing as they trade and try to export into the US. Some of those challenges have been identified as follows. Next slide. Lack of awareness of US market opportunities and end market regulations and requirements. I think the majority of you will agree that this is a big challenge for most local exporters. And then it's actually one of the key objectives that we want to make sure that this roundtable is actually able to resolve by being able to provide information, provide intelligence that would help companies be able to leverage this opportunity under AGOA. Secondly, the inability of Kenyan exporters to access US buyers is another one. Supply side constraints. So on this side, on the Kenyan side, constraints such as the high cost of energy and inadequate production of raw materials hamper the ability with which supply chain assurance can actually be assured, and therefore this is part of the challenge that we're hoping that through this dialogue we are able to start moving the needle around. Multiplicity of regulatory compliance requirements by various agencies, both here in Kenya, I say primarily in Kenya, but also, as I pointed out, some of the regulations and the requirements of the US side may not be as clear, and we're hoping that we can help resolve those as well. And then inadequacy, skills, and capacity of small business wishing to export to the US. And indeed, today we are joined in the audience by several of those small businesses, and we hope that they will actually be edified through today's program. And even as we move along, we'll be able to help support through this roundtable some of those issues related to capacity building and so on. So through the roundtable, we want exporters, stakeholders to share freely their experiences, their challenges, but more importantly, we want to be able to co-create approaches and solutions that will help us grow Kenyan export into the US and make better use of the market opportunity that AGOA presents. I'm sure you're all aware that AGOA is, expiring, let me put it that way, in 2025, and we want to make sure that we deepen as much as possible the utilization of AGOA in the remaining few years. We don't know, of course, what will happen post that, but I think that's part of what we will see how to ensure that we maximize as we move along. Now, this roundtable idea and concept, we see it as a platform, an ongoing platform that, as the key stakeholders in this space, we will leverage around these 5 objectives. One is to drive strategic and, as I mentioned, focused dialogue that explores supply side and demand side issues affecting Kenyan exports to the US. Then secondly, policy advocacy by reviewing trends both in Kenya and the US as far as trade is concerned, and highlighting opportunities and constraints that then inform policy interventions, and we use this platform to drive the advocacy efforts to resolve those policy constraints. Thirdly, I mentioned market intelligence. So this platform will be a place where we monitor and we actually amplify trade policy, identify emerging opportunities for business, as well as the impediments that might curtail the ability of business to maximize the opportunities under AGOA. Of course, to do all this, we need to be honest by monitoring and evaluating our own progress. So tracking the actions undertaken to enhance the export trade with the US, I think will be key objective for this roundtable, as well as driving promotion for exports, or rather promoting exports into the US from Kenya. So we believe that by meeting this objective, we will achieve 3 critical outcomes from the roundtable. The first is to identify and gain consensus on critical barriers to trade under AGOA. We believe that if we are able to really have focused conversation and discussions around some of these constraints, we'll be able to really boil down and drill down to what is core and what needs to be resolved, so that we are able to start moving the needle and enhancing trade under AGOA for Kenyan companies. Secondly, coming up with specific actionable interventions that will promote enhanced utilization of AGOA in the remaining few years is an outcome that we pray that we can achieve during the life of this roundtable. And then finally, and as I intimated, this inaugural roundtable is just the beginning of what we see as a standing policy engagement platform between business and government to ensure that we are able to move forward jointly and drive the implementation and utilization of AGOA. So to move us forward, we are not just looking at this as an AmCham or a private sector engagement. We actually want this to be a collaborative effort. And as such, we have invited and have engaged with several stakeholders and who will constitute and comprise of the following, but not limited to just the following entities: the State Department for Trade, under the Ministry of Industry, Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, KEPSA, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the Export Processing Zones Authority, the Kenya Investment Authority, KenInvest, Kenya Revenue Authority, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEPHIS, Fresh Produce Exporters Association, FPIC, Kenya Bureau of Standards, KBS, Agriculture and Food Authority Directorates, the Tea Board of Kenya, exporters representing SMEs, medium and large-sized enterprises will also be part of this collaboration of this consortium that is the AGOA Exporters Roundtable. And of course, as AmCham, we will be playing the role of convener and the secretariat that will be driving forward the agenda of this roundtable. And so, with that said, I want at this point to recognize and invite AmCham Kenya's Vice President of our board, Humphrey Lilech, to give his opening remarks. Humphrey, over to you.
Thank you, Maxwell. I hope you can all hear me. So as you've heard, I'm Humphrey Lilech. I'm the Vice President of the board of the AmCham. First, I want to register the apologies of our President, Brendan Mutahi, who due to unforeseen circumstances was not able to join us. So I will I will go ahead and read our statement as AmCham. So I want first of all to observe the presence of our speakers today. So I will Industrialization Secretary, Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, Okello, Simon Chalgo, Assistant Director, Internal Trade, State Department for Trade, Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, Dr. Wilfred Marube, CEO, Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, Flora Mutahi, Chair, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Job Wanjoy, Head of Policy, Research and Advocacy, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Sarah Lamb and Richard Mugo with the USAID Trade Team, other USAID representatives, fellow private sector players, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are very pleased to have you all with us today as part of this initiative, allowing us to work together to develop practical approaches and solutions to grow Kenya's exports to the US under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. Kenya's exports to the US in 2020 were measured at $569 million. Of this, exports under AGOA were $428 million, accounting for about 80% of total exports, even with the reduced demand on the US side due to the COVID pandemic. From these numbers, it is clear the significant role AGOA plays in enabling Kenya-US trade and its contribution to the Kenyan economy. We are aware that AGOA is greatly underutilized, with the apparel industry contributing the majority exports, $385 million in 2020. There remains a huge untapped opportunity to diversify Kenya-US exports under this system. And enabling the economic benefits for Kenya will be immense, with the opening of new production and value chains across different sectors and products with a ready market on the US side. But we admit that challenges to achieving this exist, which is why, as has been mentioned, this forum is critical. As AmCham, we are hopeful that it will be the platform that succeeds in finding solutions to those challenges, opening the door to better utilization of this US market opportunity. AmCham exists to drive two-way trade and investment between Kenya and the US. We do so through trade and investment facilitation, providing information and support services to enable businesses to pursue existing trade and investment opportunities within this niche ecosystem, and through commercial advocacy for a more supportive business environment. I want to thank our partners and all of you for making today's meeting possible. We look forward to engaging and working with you all to realize this important goal. Thank you, and looking forward to today's discussion. At this point, I'd like to invite Flora Mutahi, the chair of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, to provide KEPSA's opening remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And allow me to say, as the third speaker, all protocols observed. But good afternoon to all my friends of industry and trade, CAM, Maxwell, Chamber, and all our participating members. So basically, well, everybody knows KEPSA is a membership organization that began in 2003, being the apex body of the private sector in Kenya. And our mandate really has been to provide a unified voice for private sector to ensure improvement in the overall business environment. And our membership has been, of course, made up of large corporations, BMOs, federations, and SMEs especially, that really have come. I think right now we are representing over 1 million businesses in Kenya under KEPSA.
We seem to be having a problem with Flora's connection. Or is it just on my side? Eva, can you confirm?
Exactly what we are trying to say around business. So KEPSA's partnership and engagements with the US business stretches around, well, begins with the American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya, where we've had a long-standing relationship with Corporate Council on Africa. Since the signing of the initial MOU in 2012, that was renewed in 2020. We've engaged in various activities to promote mutual interests for increased trade and investments, like championing direct flights between the two countries, and the US-Kenya FTA negotiations, hosting trade and investment forums, among others. And of course, recently, I think we saw our CEO out in Washington actually signing yet another agreement that was really to support SMEs to partner through information sharing, training, logistics, and financing. The core objective of the agreement was to support greater US trade under the AGOA. And this support will actually continue after the 2025, in accordance with whatever new agreement, despite whatever new agreement comes in, this continues. The second thing they're going to do is to promote SME-driven Kenya include the Business Council for International Understanding and the US Chamber of Commerce, which we have an MOU for cooperation in policy advocacy towards improving the business environment and promoting trade and investment between Kenya and the US. Kenya's trade under AGOA, well, basically, I think, like has been said before, Kenya was one of the initial signatories to the AGOA, which provided duty-free quotas to about 6,500 tariff lines. That has played a significant role to Kenya's economic development, like we saw, or we heard from what was said earlier, contributing to the 659 million, creating more than 200,000 new jobs. And of course, this has been very, very critical in exporting, like we heard the figure of export, which is about 80% of it. It forms 80% of the exports from Kenya. So there are numerous opportunities to diversify the exports by local SMEs, which is why KEPSA is partnering with the CCA to facilitate this access. The ITC's export potential map shows that the untapped export potential in Kenya is of doing business. But I also think I want to add is also the amount of tariff lines that we have taken on as Kenya is really, really very low. So other concerns include high cost of transportation to the US. Of course, it's not right, it's pretty distant. The long physical distance between the two countries relates to high transportation costs. Persistence of non-tariff barriers. Of course, under AGOA, getting approval for products is long and complicated. Its health and safety standards are tough to meet. More often than not, AGOA eligible states are not adequately equipped to address these issues. We have, of course, limited credit facilities, inadequate export credit facilities for SMEs especially, which hinders them from fully taking on opportunities. In fact, we crack a joke of, if you tell an SME that, suppose you got an order this side from the US, would you be able to supply it? And from there, they say, no, I wouldn't. Of course, there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of AGOA, having heard that it expires in 2025. However, the negotiation for the FTA with Kenya, like Morocco, offers a ray of hope, not only for us, but for the continent as we adjust trading terms under the AFC. This can be done through identifying and prioritizing the export products for which we have comparative advantages, enhancing competitiveness in order to reduce transaction costs, increase productivity. There are various measures we can take around infrastructure development and better transportation. Development of value chains. Again, this will lend itself to actually for us being able to export. So even as we continue as a nation and private sector to work on ensuring economic recovery, we must also recognize the opportunities brought forth by this. Sectors such as ICT are experiencing growth like they've never seen before. And it's our primary duty to ensure we capitalize on this. Others include the green economy as the world moves on. it is also important that even as we continue to push to keep access to AGOA, that we keep on building our product competitiveness in case at some point we are forced to level the playing field on reciprocal terms. Essentially, working on diversifying our exports market is an optional option that we must also explore, which is why a roundtable like this is really of paramount importance, where we exchange ideas. Maxwell, over to you.
Thank you very much, Flora, for that. And I'm sorry, I seem to be having a bit of a problem with my audio. I hope everybody can hear me. So thank you for that. And we do agree that the potential is immense, and there is a lot that can be done. We're barely scratching the surface. So I will at this point invite Simon Chalgo, our first presenter for the afternoon. Simon Chalgo is the Assistant Director, Internal Trade at the State Department for Trade, who is going to give us a presentation providing an overview of US-Kenya trade, as well as the Kenya National AGOA strategy. So Simon, the screen is yours.
Maxwell.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. My presentation will be on AGOA and Kenyan strategy. I hope you can see me.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So my presentation outline is as follows. 1 is the introduction. 2, African Growth and Opportunity Act, that is AGOA. 3, strategy development approach. 4, findings. And then 5, the strategy targets. 6, AGOA action, that is strategic interventions. And 7 is monitoring and evaluation. Now, what was the primary objective of AGOA and the strategy? 1 was to develop strategy and action plan to guide Kenya's exploitation of opportunities provided by the US, that is the AGOA. Number 2 was the support from USAID, that is the former hub, trade hub. Now, AGOA, as you all know, was a US Trade Act of the year 2000, providing for duty access to the US market for eligible originating products made in the eligible sub-Saharan African countries. What were the objectives of this act? 1 was to diversify regions' export production. 2, expand trade and investment. 3, accelerate economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa. Number 2, eligible products include 6,900 duty-free tariff lines. That is, we have 6,421. That is GSP and AGOA products. Now, AGOA has been renewed twice. That is in the year 2005 and 2010 for a period of 5 years each. But in 2015, it was extended for 10 years to 2025. Now, the remaining 4 years, Kenya has to utilize this favorable market access regime because US might not renew this initiative in 2025. Now, what was the approach we used in strategy development? 1, identification of products of highest export potential, and 2, develop strategy and action plan. During the strategy development, Stakeholders were engaged. That is, we had what we call sector reviews, strategic issues, strategic objectives, and interventions, action plans, cross-cutting and sector-specific institutional framework. And also there was M&E, that is monitoring and evaluation. Now, during the approach, that is formulating the strategy, we had what we call regional and national participatory stakeholders consultation. That was at the national and the local, that is a Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry branches. 2, officials of trade in the counties. 3, public and private sector institutions engaged in investment promotions, export promotions, and business environment advocacy. Now, we sampled some of these counties depending on the potentiality of the products. We didn't visit all the counties, but we were targeting those counties which had potential or they were already exporting to the US market. And this include Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, Kiambu, Uasin Gishu, Kisii, Kisumu, Busia, Siaya, Bungoma, Kakamega, Makueni, Machakos, Taita Taveta, and Kilifi. Actually, when the consultant was collecting views, I also accompanied him during that coalition of data. Now, what were the findings from this coalition? First, Kenya National AGOA Strategy 2012 and 2016 performed well. Kenya-US trade expanded considerably from USD 389.5 million in 2012 to 551 million in 2016. Kenya also experienced positive trade balance with the US in 2016. Kenya rallied other eligible sub-Saharan countries to successfully lobby for extension of AGOA in 2025. Now, AGOA is important to Kenya trade. Why? Kenya-US trade improved due to structured marketing, government support, and good export promotion policies, e.g. export processing zone. But there are challenges also which Kenya has faced. One of these challenges is lack of awareness of AGOA by companies and public sector agencies, which include counties. Another challenge is limited awareness of the US market and commercial practices. 3, SMEs limited export supply capacities for large export markets. 4, limited capacities to meet the US product import standards and buyer requirements. 5, high freight charges and extended delivery times. Now, the strategy, so we still have other challenges, but those are the main challenges which Kenyans face. Now, the strategy targets, what were the strategy targets? 1, it was targeting apparel, coffee, tea, processed and specialty food, flowers, fresh fruits and vegetables, home decor, and personal accessories. Now, by sector, that is the apparel, the products which were targeting the US were 1, knitted shirts in synthetic for both gender and ages. That is in short term. T-shirts in cotton, synthetic for both gender and ages. Sweaters in synthetic for both gender and ages. Woven pants and shorts in cotton and synthetic for both gender and ages. Woven shirts in cotton, synthetic for both gender and ages. Dresses for women, girls in cotton, synthetic as part of SME products. Now, during the short term, we also identified home decor and personal accessories. Some of these products include articles of leather, harness, travel goods, handbags, towels, travel luggage, wallets, leather accessories, belts, small leather. Manufactured of plating materials, that is basket work, sisal racks, baskets, organizers, desk accessories, wall hangings. Other textile made articles, sets, etc. include home textile pillows, tabletop runners, placemats, napkins, throws. Others include jewelry with precious stones, metals, etc. with gold, ruby, emerald, soist, green garnet, brass, glass beads, ceramics, works of the art, painting, sculpture, collectors' piece, and antiques. Now, potential short-term products for exports to the US include coffee, which some of these are green Arabica coffee or organic coffee. On tea, we have black seed tea, green tea, flavored tea, and other teas. Okay, on processed and specialty food, we have vegetable oils, that is avocado, macadamia, and others. Nuts, we have macadamia, cashew nuts, and then mango pulp, species, chilies, chili sauce, dried fruits, pineapple, mango, banana, canned fruits, etc. Now, on flowers, we have roses, carnations, altromeris, lilies, and jet plus. On fresh fruits and vegetables, we have French beans, sugar snaps, and baby corn. Now, targeted products, that is emerging and mid-term products, include apparel, that is fashion, high-end brands, and garments. On home decor and personal accessories, we have designed high-end products for fashion and decor brands. Processed and specialty food, other vegetables, oil, organic jam, jellies, snacks. And then on coffee, we have organic, branded packaged roaster coffees. On tea, we have black and green packaged purple tea, herbal, and infusion. Then flowers, we have cut propagation materials and foliage, tropical flowers. And then fresh fruits and vegetables, we have avocado, mango, Afro-Asian vegetables, and others. Now, what were the AGOA action plan? That is the strategic interventions. So after collecting all those data, we have also to come up with the strategic interventions. Now, increased AGOA awareness and knowledge in public and private sector. The actions were AGOA awareness, promotion, and visibility. Number 2 is that sensitization and exporter training at the national and the county level. So those were that intervention. Number 2, increased understanding of the US market and competition in the target sectors. What were the actions? Action is promotion of partnership and linkages with the US traders. 2, collect and disseminate market information, trend, and opportunities. Support Kenyan exporters' compliance with the US market requirements and started action. What were the actions? Support exporters to obtain compliance certificates, training, and audit. Achieve competitive freight cost and maritime and air. What were the actions? Support exporters through trade associations in negotiating affordable cargo rates. 5, improved supply capacity and productivity of SMEs in target sectors. What were the actions? Select product with demand in the US market for targeted technical assistance and cluster exposition to the best production practices, consolidating and joint marketing. Now, 6, provide timely and competitive trade and investment financing to exporters. What were the actions? Establish export credit guarantee schemes to provide affordable pre- and post-shipment trade finance products. 2, leverage innovative non-bank financing tools through partnership with financial sector players. 7, enhance institutional capacity to support exporters to utilize AGOA action. What were the action? That is restructure and resource National Committee on AGOA by providing competent staff and designating specific members, funding and equipping for the unit. 2, building capacity of sector trade associations through not TPC but KEPSA at both national and county levels to train exporters. 8, improve exporting sector competitiveness and resilience against negative impact of climate change. What were the action? The action is to support private sector associations to formulate and lobby for policy reforms on land consolidation, irrigation, and effective agricultural extension. B, that is a partner with research and development agencies to disseminate information on innovation to exporters, to export processors. And the last action is support policy incentives to encourage use of renewable energy to reduce operation costs in the export sector. Another action is action plan is remove NTPs and improve business climate for investment and facilitation of trade with the US. What were the actions? review and rationalize multiple regulatory restrictions, tax and levies affecting export business. 2 is assist trade associations to develop code of conduct to regulate individual export sector players. And 3, establish Kenya export warehouse in the US and promote uptake of incentives available in the special economic zone, export processing zones programs. Now, lastly, monitoring and evaluation. So activities, that is a quarterly or half-year progress reports of all activities and budgets, annual updates of the action plan and budgets. 3, dissemination of lessons learned to the export community in Kenya. 4, evaluation of the action plan. Now, what were the actions required? Follow-up and corrections in the implementation are done in timely manner. That is, by providing resources and effort in the implementation are allocated efficiently. Report of AGOA best practices, lesson learned, sent by direct mail to exporters and meetings for sharing experience. And then lastly, by annual evaluation and implementation. Now, who will be responsible for all this action? It should be NC AGOA. That is the National Committee on AGOA. That is within the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Cooperatives. Thank you. Over to you, Maxwell.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Simon, for that presentation. It is actually delightful to see that there's quite a bit of alignment in terms of the objectives that we want to achieve and the work that has already gone into developing the AGOA strategy. And I believe that then what this roundtable brings is the pointed tip of the spear, if I may put it that way, to ensure that we are staying honest and ensure that we're moving the needle as far as some of the interventions that have been proposed in the strategy to ensure that we are able to actually move things forward. So at this point, I want to invite Hezekiah Okello, who's the Industrialization Secretary in the Ministry of Trade, Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development. Hezekiah, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The list is long for greetings, but I appreciate the presence of the distinguished delegates who are here. Chair of KEPSA, the Vice President of AmCham Kenya, Representative of KAM, and the rest of my colleagues from government. My paper will be very short, building from what Mr. Chalgo has given the overview. Textile, as we know, is critical, so I'll go to the next page and just gloss over it, that I have 3 broad areas. The next steps will be some 4 questions that could inform our way forward. In the next slide, depending on who you talk to, these figures vary, and sometimes we feel shy to mention them because we don't know whether your source is in tandem with the other sources. But from this, we appreciate the importance of US as a partner with Kenya in this trade, very, very significant and coming very fast behind our major global trading partners. Records that we had the last time during our negotiations was the 7th partner in terms of trade. And then looking at AGOA, Mr. Chalgo is alluding to some facts that you may know that it may not be extended. We leave that to the lobbyists like AmCham and also those who are on the other side of the Congress. We are tracking the discussions going on, and it could go that direction, but the options are there for Kenya because we had started a path that had anticipated AGOA not being there. So whichever way AGOA goes, Kenya is ready to pick from where 30th September will be. So on the 4th point is very critical because we are looking at deepening AGOA, making the best utilization, and under textile, we have in the harmonized tariff system book, chapters 50 continuous to chapter 63. That gives you 14 chapters and several product lines. Kenya is only known in the US market for 2 chapters. Chapter 61, which is the knitted products, which are garments, and Chapter 62, that carries the woven products. And when you look at those again, the list is not a continuum. We pick few and we move with them. So in the next few slides, I'll build on this area 4. So in the next slide, the challenges that Flora mentioned and Chalgo mentioned in the AGOA strategy are real. For the textile sector, we are looking at 4 areas. AGOA, much as it has been available for 20 years, 22 now, Kenya is still relying on third-country fabrics. That's an issue that we'll bring in my next steps. Then the second area, which I've already alluded to, is this narrow look at 14 chapters, plus another 5 chapters, actually, which I'll mention. So not only chapter 50 to 63, but we'll see some of the aspects that Chalgo mentioned. Those special products, they are not the mainstream textile chapters of chapter 50 to 63, but we find them in chapter 42, chapter 70s, 90s, and all that. I'll allude to that as we go forward. Then we are looking at the long-term and the stability that investors are saying, because of the uncertainty, we cannot overcommit ourselves. So that has remained a challenge beyond the other challenges that has been mentioned before. Then we are talking about the garment sector of chapter 61 and 62, which is not sinking deep within the supply chains that the economy could be proud of. In other words, we are not deep on the upstream side. In other words, the fibers, the yarns, and the fabrics are not ours. So therefore, it's a sector that has not integrated very well. So these are, from our point of view of industrialization, forms the question that this forum will be looking at going forward. And then this slide is very interesting, more so for the investors. We have done a deep dive of 20 years of AGOA from 2000 to 2019, looking at how have we performed. We divided our analysis broadly into 3. Which products have Kenya consistently exported of garments for the last 20 years? That's 1. Secondly, which products did Kenya excitedly enter into the US with? And 20 years down the line, they are no longer there. We found thousands and thousands of products are not there anymore. Then finally, are there any new products that have endured and were not there before the second extension of AGOA? And that will be very, very interesting, because these are the new entrants that came ready for 2015, 2025. So this first slide gives us 33 products that have persistently hung on since 2000. When you look at the cumulative revenue or benefit they have gotten, yeah, you could be looking for more, because over 20 years, we are talking about 450 maximum for one product. Over 20 years, it's not so much. Then we go back to the competitiveness. These product cycles, 10 of them are products where in the US market, the tariffs are very low, 6%, 5%, 9% or so. Therefore, Kenya has failed to compete with the most efficient economies in the Asian side. Therefore, they are stagnated. Something must be done, because out of these 7 products out of 10 which I've circled are knitted products. How does the knitting industry sit with the garment industry in Kenya? It's the weakest link. So this is the analysis that all of these 33 products, if you look at them, you look at the tariffs, because of the competitiveness issue, A differential of 6% cannot protect Kenyan industries with all the challenges of freight charges that have been put. Therefore, these products have stagnated and majority are dropping off. So that is the take home from this, that we did well, 2000 to 2019. We are being outcompeted in these new areas of knitted and crocheted product that will be very, very niche, even to get more niche products out of. The next slide. Again, I talked about 3 categories of analysis. I'll only present 2, the product that have persisted and the new kids on the block that jumped in 2014 and are doing well. So these 17 products are now woven products. As you can see, out of 17, 13 are woven. The first one were knitted products, again, coming from cotton and synthetics. These are woven again, coming from cotton and synthetic fibers. And when you look at them, the first thing you notice that within 5 years, product number 1 has achieved almost 370, equivalent to product number 1 in the previous list, which achieved 400 in 20 years. So this tells you there's a potential here. The tariff for this product number 1 is 16. And within this list, there are products which are ranging from 8% to 16%. US has the highest tariff of 32%, and these are synthetics, non-cotton. In this list of the new entrants, the synthetics and the cottons are competing side by side. The first one is cotton. The second one growing is synthetic, menswear. The third one is now women's woven cotton, and it is ranges between woven, synthetic, woven cotton, giving competitiveness between the 2 sources of fibers. Therefore, if we have sufficient cotton, we can do our blends and we can deepen these new products that came 2014 and are hanging on to 2019, and they are likely going on. The tariffs are not so high, but they are competing. How are they managing this? Because none of the products out of the 1 cycle has a tariff of the 32. The highest is products number 3, which has a tariff of 27.9%. So we need to deeply engage with the manufacturers tariff by tariff to see where is our competitiveness, what are the dynamics within a product line, the ones where we have done well, what can be done so that we leverage the product that have persisted for 20 years since 2000, and the new ones that jumped in so that they don't jump out, but they build. To me, that is how we can build a 3-pronged strategy for AGOA maximization. 1, how do we deepen the products that we had 2000 to 2019? 2, how do we support the products that were not there up to 2014, but they have been building their capacity 2014, 2019? Then 3, how do we get more products on board? The next slide. These are the product ranges where, if we look at where should we go and what more should be done from the AGOA strategy, we can pick from there. The first 1, 2, 3 columns going down are just the raw materials: cotton, silk, wool, and then the synthetic staples and synthetic fibers for the ones, those who are familiar with the sector. Then the third column is where we are getting the intermediates, and some of them are finished product. The woven fabrics and the knitted fabrics, their source is out of Africa. And therefore you factor in the turnaround time. They must come 45 days or so, and they must go back again to US. How can we shorten this is the strategy that we should look around. Then the fashions, the new products like the traveling goods and bags, home decors, all these are new product lines that are outside the traditional chapter 50 to 63. You find them in chapter 42 for the bags, you find chapter 70s for the new things, and you find chapter 94, 96, where you have the baby diapers, the sanitary towels, and the new kid in the block, the masks. So all these are opportunities that are waiting for textile sector. So in the last slide, I submit that these are opportunities, as we have alluded to. And within these opportunities, there are also challenges that can be picked. What we can now look at is how do we make sure that we integrate the sector from fibers to yarn, to fabrics, to accessories. Then we can now export Kenyan-made garments. We have the export processing zones. There could be challenges. How can we unlock them? The special economic zones that are coming, both public and private, how can we unlock them? Therefore, in conclusion, 4 questions that can help us are the following. From the 4 challenges that we had on the aspects of AGOA heavily dependent on third country fabric, how do we attract investments in the production of woven fabrics and knitted fabrics? That's one. On the aspects of AGOA utilization to get the full maximum, I'd ask the 3 questions, and I can repeat them. To maximize AGOA, how do we deepen the product that have persisted 2000 to 2019? 1, how do we leverage the products of 2014-19 that were never there before, but look like are hanging on, and how can we make them better and deepen? And then the 3rd question out of that was, how do we get these new product lines that we are pictorially presented? On the 3rd question of AGOA as a unilateral program and the impacts of the long-term investment, the question would be, how do we create this long-term certainty? 2 answers, AGOA extension or getting a reciprocal arrangement. Therefore, we have the question of the reciprocal arrangement because we are in engagement with the US for FTA. AGOA extension needs a lot of work to be done because listening to what the Congress are saying, they want to see a better arrangement that benefits Africa. Third country fabric, they're saying, has never benefited Africa. Then finally, the government sector that is not fully integrated. How can we attract investment for the production of natural and synthetic fibers? 1, how do we get investments for the yarn production? 2, and finally, how do we get investments that are competitive for the production of competitive fabrics, which was part of the question 1, and textile mills that will be anchored on the green agenda and bring out not the traditional fabrics, but fabrics that can give fashion and design. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my submission, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Hezekiah Okello. I think that has been quite an eye-opening presentation. And I think you've really nailed it, much as your presentation was focused on the apparel subsector. The 3 questions that you raised are actually pertinent right across. How do we deepen what we are already doing, or what have we been doing until 2019? And how do we support those products from 2014 to 2019 that are showing a lot of potential and are improving? And thirdly, how do we get more products into the mix? I think if we address that, coupled with the other questions that you raised subsequent to that, I think we definitely have a very good platform or framework, if I may put it that way, to jump off of and drive forward the agenda of the roundtable. So thank you very much for that submission. At this point, I'm going to recognize and invite Job Wanjohi the head of policy, research, and advocacy at Kenya Association of Manufacturers to give his presentation. Job, over to you.
Thank you so much, Maxwell, for this opportunity, and I look forward to make this presentation within the 10 minutes that have been allocated. I have to note that AGOA has been a beneficiary to manufacture, especially in apparel sector, that is especially within the EPZ zones. So we look at how we can have the other sectors benefit from the other tariff lines, as the other presenters have talked about. It is only the apparel sector that has really benefited out of this more. But in the next 4 years, we can see whether we can push some investments into another few more tariff lines, as also we continue looking at how we can have a post-AGOA strategy, just like the negotiations that are going on at the moment. So we can move to the next slide. First is about Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We were established in 1959. We celebrated our 60th anniversary in 2019. So we are growing strong every day. We normally cover various regions, but you find that we are heavy around East Africa. Our main role is advocacy for our members. We have about 1,300 members who are registered with Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So ours is to do fact-based advocacy for them. Within the manufacturing, we have various sectors. Like now you have me mentioning of the apparel. You go to textile, we call it textile and apparel. You go to leather and footwear, chemical and allied. So those are 14 sectors, and their chapters are regionalized, they're geographical. So you find there is mobile and whatnot. Our main role is advocacy, but also we give advisory services, provide demand-driven services, like now the AGOA visas that we normally process for those who are exporting. We do linkages at a national, regional, and a global level. That is business-to-business networking to ensure that we are integrating between manufacturing and our farmers. That is backward integration, and also to the markets. That is now the forward integration from the manufacturing to the markets. Next slide. One issue, and also has been noted in the past, is that we have about 6,400 tariff lines. Some from the general, it's called general system of preference, and an additional 1,800 new tariff lines. But you find that out of these, what we have been able to measure on is the up. And I would say that it is unfortunate that we have only managed to drive through apparel American market and not other products. I know there are underlying factors, there are factors to this, which some of them can be addressed nationally, and others are externalities because of the competition from those who are into the American market. But what we have managed to sell more is in apparel. But you find that in agricultural, horticultural products, home decor, accessories, and specialty foods also have a potential for scale up. If at all, there's some new tariff line that we want to uptake within AGOA. Next step. One impressive thing is that we have been on trade from 2000 to date, and I have shown on the graph there. One thing that you can notice is that from 2000, we were exporting goods worth 3 billion Kenya shillings. At the moment, we are exporting goods worth about 47 or 40 billion Kenya shillings per year. And that's, I would say, is an impressive performance within that period, but not impressive enough, because we could be doing X15 or X20 if at all we were able to uptake on as many tariff lines as possible. The other thing is that AGOA has also enhanced our foreign exchange, that our monetary policy has been stable because of what you're getting in terms of sales, the hard currencies, the greenback. So you'll say that it has helped monetary policy stabilization in the country, despite the fluctuation that we've been seeing now and then. I believe when we were starting 2000, the shilling was trading against dollar at around 70 or 65. Now we are talking over 110. That means that it has depreciated. But if we never had the hard currencies that are coming through this, it would have been worse than it is today. Next slide. Some of the benefits that we have seen in AGOA as manufacturers is that there is a creation of direct employment, and especially in special economic zones, whereby we have seen about 52,000 jobs aligned with the export to AGOA. And this now has an export direct impact to other indirect employees. So you find that in total, we have about 252,000 employees that are benefiting out of this AGOA strategy. Industrialization and localized supply chains. Good to note that not only we import the raw materials and the intermediate products at the textile and apparel sector, but also there are those who have done the backward integration. What I mean is backward integration is what I mean that there are those who are getting the cotton from or locally. You find they're doing cotton to fashion, and this is maximizing the number of jobs that can be created in the sector. At the same time, you find that the investments kick in. And we are encouraging that going forward, if we can be able to do more of this backward integration, not only in this sector that we are clapping for, but even in other sectors that would uptake the AGOA. The other thing is the service industry. We have ancillary sectors that are normally benefit, logistics, insurance, financial services. All these are indirect beneficiaries of the AGOA strategy. Some of the challenges that we normally have in optimizing AGOA, as long as supply side is concerned, we have a competitiveness gap. You find that from inbound process, that is bringing the raw materials to the country for value addition, we have various challenges that we normally encounter from the demurrage charges, from storage charges, from freight charges at the moment, especially the freight cost is very high, delayed clearance processes. All these has a direct impact on our competitiveness. If it is a question of inbound process, that's where the validation is being done. Talk of the cost of power, talk of the cost of labor, and various other issues. Outbound competitiveness is when we're looking at a movement of these goods from now the factories to our ports and onward transmission to the US. Also, you find there is involvement of 90% of these goods through the sea, and the freight cost at the moment is a bit high. So that hurts our competitiveness. The policy issues is a question of government interventions as far as the policy measures are concerned. They're those that we are trying to better every day so that we have a conducive policy environment for uptake of AGOA. Information access, you find there is limited knowledge about market in Kenya for investors, for general populace in Kenya, and this is something that can be addressed by marketing more of the tariff lines that are available and they're low hanging within AGOA. Demand side is knowledge about AGOA by the US buyers. Also, where there's a gap, and we can look at how this can be addressed, especially those who have their malls, they have their retail centers, their distributors, how they can reach out to Kenya for supply of these goods, especially in the apparel, so that we can see more uptake in apparel and other sectors. Competition interests, I talked about the competition from the rest of the world, because it is not only Kenya or Sub-Saharan Africa that are trading with the US. We have other interests that are coming from the rest of the world. and you find that they are more competitive than what we are doing in the country. So you find that we face stiff competition when you try to penetrate the market. Consumer preference also might not be easy, might not be easily met by the exporters. It's just a question of doing more of the market intelligence to understand the tastes of the US consumer bracket and try to align with their tastes. Promoting and facilitating AGOA. One thing that you're looking at in promotional activities is having business-to-business networking, ensuring that we are doing the backward and the forward linkages so that we can optimize on the opportunities that are coming through the AGOA. So the linkage between the supply and demand is quite important so that at least we can see more products being pushed to the US. Then participation in marketing and promotion events and sourcing fairs in both Kenya and the US. This is something that we conjointly do with KEPSA and other like-minded agencies to ensure that the marketing and promotion is happening, but we can enhance this further going forward. Trade facilitation is a question of facilitating trade between Kenya and the US, addressing the compliance issues, including environment, social standards, governance issues, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical bodies to trade, and also the NTBs. So all these we are trying to address together to ensure that there is seamless flow of trade between Kenya and the US. Promoting and facilitating AGOA, again, addressing competitiveness issues. I talked about this from inbound, in-factory, and outbound processes, and I hope this can be addressed so that we remain as competitive as possible. Also, efficiency in the operations. I talked about the port, I talked about the delays, I talked about the cost of logistics, that the freight cost, demurrage cost, the storage cost. All these has a direct impact on the cost of production, and again on the competitiveness. That's the end of the presentation. One thing to note is that AmCham, we do direct facilitation of those who are interested to trade at AGOA. Normally issue the AGOA visa through the system that is established. And also we host Kenya Apparel Manufacturers and Exporters Association. So once they coalesce around that association, they're able to exchange ideas on how they can maximize on. Also we facilitate business persons who are trained at AGOA in the getting the visas, or when we're talking about work permits in some of these establishments that are exporting at AGOA, and even the special passes. Thank you so much, and back to you, Maxwell.
All right, thank you very much, Job, for that concise and actually quite